Welcome back everyone to another Downward Day. And I don't usually make videos of this sort, responding to some other creator's content or whatever. I'm not a big drama guy, and I'm not trying to start drama here, but what I saw in this particular video in question, it just left me so confused, so puzzled as to why this YouTuber would actually post this video that I simply had to say something to clear the air. I couldn't let this one slide. Just every now and then, when you browse content online, you run into these types of videos where you have to ask yourself why in the world the creator thought it would be a good idea to post it. These videos that are just so totally ignorant and incoherent in whatever word salad the creator is trying to cobble together, you have to seriously consider whether the creator was under the influence of some type of psychoactive drug or if they just decide to troll their audience for no reason. That's just the only rational explanation that you can hope convince somebody to upload content this dense. And to make matters even more baffling is when one of these insanely idiotic videos comes from a creator who you otherwise enjoy and respect. So Louis Rossmann is a creator whose work I respect quite a bit. I don't watch his stuff all the time, but every now and then I tune in to see what he's working on or what topical issue he's ranting about for the day. I'm sure many of you watching know who he is already. He's pretty well known at this point, I'd like to believe. But for those of you unfamiliar with him, he's basically a small business owner in New York City, or at least for most of his career he was operating out of New York City. And a great deal of his content is pretty much him showing the struggles of a small business owner attempting to deal with the extreme amounts of red tape and bureaucracy that many similar merchants in his position have to deal with. And this is someone who, for all intents and purposes, comes off as a very reasonable and logically sound guy. He's someone who feels relatable. He's got this blue-collar work ethic that makes him likable and makes his content very easily digestible. And in my time on YouTube, I've probably watched dozens of his videos, and he's always come off as just this very straightforward, no-nonsense type guy who'll tell you the truth of the situation. In pretty much everything he's posted, at least from what I've seen of him, he's tended to be this very consistent, honest, candid person. And I think for pretty much as long as he's been around, at least for the videos I've seen of him, he's been fairly consistent and reliable. He's just one of these long-lasting creators who's built up this reputation of being sort of the go-to guy for the voice of reason. And taking all this into consideration, it makes it all the more shocking and strange when I saw a video of his pop into my recommended a couple weeks ago, where he's basically trying to argue that it's somehow virtuous to use ad blockers on YouTube. And like I said, I'm not a regular viewer of Louis. I pop into his stuff every couple of years or so, usually, just to see what he's up to. So maybe if he's generally been making a lot more bad takes lately and I just haven't caught on yet, that might be the case. But regardless, based on the creator I knew going in, it just seemed like such a departure from the image I had of him in my head, where you could release a video as brain dead as the one he did. So I'm sure most of you watching haven't seen it, and you can go watch it. I'll link it in the description below. So the underlying thesis of Louis's video is that it's somehow morally justifiable to use ad blockers on YouTube because he uploaded a 20-second video of his cat, and he's somehow disgruntled that it only made $1 in ad revenue or something.
What you notice is that video that got about 13,000 views has made 10 cents, which is precisely why in this video I was A-okay with people blocking ads, and I still support it to this day.
He doesn't articulate any actual coherent argument as to the morality of using ad block. He's basically just throwing a giant hissy fit because his little 20-second video of his cat didn't earn enough revenue for him. I don't have the video at hand right now, obviously, because I'm driving, but feel free to watch the video yourself and correct me if I'm making this a bit too far of a stretch here. Like, am I wrong here? Did I miss something? Or is he literally advocating for his viewers to use AdBlock because his 20-second video of his cat didn't earn enough revenue for him. Like, is there honestly something else I'm missing from that video? Because that seemed to be the argument he was making that whole time. Because I remember watching it and sitting there waiting the entire runtime for him to actually offer some substantive critiques of YouTube's ad system. Because I'm sure there are some. I'm sure there's some perfectly good reasons for using AdBlock on YouTube that perhaps I need to be educated on. But whatever they may be, Lewis sure didn't offer any. Because after sitting through that video, I was honestly half convinced that it was a joke and that he was literally trolling his audience. But no, it's about as austere as anything else he's made. I can understand if this was coming from some boomer on Fox News or something who's never actually made content for the internet, but this guy has been making YouTube videos and earning ad revenue on YouTube for how long? I honestly don't know how long he's been around. He's been around at least 5 or 6 years, and possibly his career dates back even further than that. So for a guy who spent so much time content creating for YouTube, and for a guy who's presumably collected so much revenue from those videos, it just completely boggles the mind how you could be so ignorant about how the underlying ad system on YouTube actually works, where you want to somehow make the argument that because your 20-second cat video didn't earn enough revenue, that's somehow evidence that the entire advertising system on YouTube is broken, and that therefore AdBlock should be used by YouTube viewers as, I don't even know why, a means of protest, I guess, because the system is broken anyway, because the YouTubers aren't earning enough, so they might as well earn nothing? Like, what? Of course, the loyal Employment viewers out there will know that a couple years ago, I made a video about a guy by the name of Matt's What It Is, who basically started this whole campaign trying to encourage advertisers to pull out of YouTube for some sort of stupid social media movement that ended up taking revenue away from YouTubers. And people who know me know how much I hate that guy and what he did, and this precedent he set where it's somehow equitable to encourage people to take money away from YouTubers, many of which aren't even earning that much to begin with. Let's be honest here. This whole image of people turning on a camera, recording themselves playing a video game or something, and getting rich on YouTube, it's as much of a fantasy as anything else. So don't even begin to believe that wealth and opulence is at all the standard for people on this website. Most monetized channels on YouTube are probably earning such a small amount of revenue that they are required to supplement most of their day-to-day income with some kind of conventional job. And so when a guy like Matt's What It Is comes along and basically tries to make the argument that these people, they're earning such an insignificant amount of money that they'd be better off taking one for the team and going to get an application to drive an Uber instead of following their actual creative passions, it's borderline evil. It's at the very least completely tone deaf and ignorant to the economic realities that many creators face on this website. In fact, in all my years of being on this platform, I struggle to think of any one YouTuber I hate more than this guy, Matt's What It Is. And it's really funny how all that works, because this Louis Rossmann video was making me feel the same way as when I watched Matt's video arguing that YouTubers ought to lose revenue to appease some kind of nonsensical movement that sounds good in your head, but in reality makes no difference whatsoever. That's the vibes I was getting from this Louis video. It's that bad of a video. And look, listen, I get it, you know, ads suck on YouTube. People don't want to watch ads, okay? That's why they pay YouTube to make people see them, because people don't want to see them. So they pay to make them seen. Ads suck. I've never liked ads. There's never been a point in my life when I enjoyed watching ads. Nobody likes to watch ads. This is not any sort of groundbreaking revelation. Yes, ads suck. Yes, they're obnoxious. Yes, there's a million of them. But you know what? That's the price you gotta pay to make the system work and watch free content. And yeah, how nice would it be for there to be a better system where perhaps you could get content that's free and also has no ads? The big question of the day, why can't we get it done? I don't know. Why can't we get it done? Could it possibly be because in the 100 years of mass media, advertising has been shown to be by far the most effective means of funding projects. And that's another thing about this video that just really rubbed me the wrong way, where Lewis is just completely arrogantly acting like he knows better than the economic realities which content creators have had to face forever. Like, the bottom line is, the money's got to come from somewhere. How nice would it be if everyone can go off on a Patreon-only model? Guess what? It doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work especially for small creators that are still trying to get their foot in the door and they don't have the following yet. They don't have the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of viewers to call on for donation. Oh, how nice could it be if we could all hold hands in a circle in front of a rainbow while everyone donates to everyone else? It's not happening. It hasn't been happening. There's never been a time in the last 100 years where a majority of commercial artists could subsist entirely off donations. You're asking for a fantasy, okay? You're asking to live off in Rainbow Land to suggest that an entirely donation-based system could work for a creator economy at scale, and to insist that it's somehow feasible and that we don't need ads. It just demonstrates a complete lack of awareness for the nature of business. And this is all coming from a guy who runs a business, a rather successful business, I might add. The money's gotta come from somewhere. I'm sorry, it just has to. Maybe back when I was a teenager, living in my parents' house making all those YouTube poops, then I could work on stuff for free. But man, I'm in my 20s now. I've got bills to pay. I can't afford to work for free. The money's gotta come from somewhere. Yes, advertisements suck. Boo-hoo. Guess what? They don't suck for being a quick and efficient means of distributing revenue in a creator economy. And all this talk of YouTube's ad system in particular being somehow broken. Is it sloppily administered at places? Yeah, of course. Are there plenty of cases where demonetization and copyright claims and unfair age restriction get in the way of what should be profitable, monetizable content? Absolutely. There always has been. And trust me, no one's complained more about YouTube than yours truly. But to sit there as Louis Rossmann, a guy who, in all likelihood, has probably made over $1 million in ad revenue, in YouTube, Google AdSense ad revenue at this point in his career, to sit there and pout and try to frame the entire system as fraudulent because your 20-second cat video couldn't make revenue. I'm sorry, but what an absolute bunch of bullshit.
But then when you look at the amount of money that you actually get from the ads, it's like, really?
To sit there and pretend that somehow Google AdSense is not the most sophisticated and efficient ad placement system in the history of humanity. I mean, that's the pure facts of the situation right there. There has never been a more efficient and advanced ad placement system in the history of human commerce than what Google is doing with AdSense. Name one that was better. You can't. And speaking from experience as someone who's very recently looked into starting a website that's financed by online ad impressions, let's be honest, folks, your options are basically Google AdSense or bust. There is no other ad program that even comes close. Like, trying to argue in any way that Google AdSense is somehow not the gold standard of creator monetization in the internet age. You're trying to sell shit in a sewer, dude. Like, what are you even saying? Especially as someone who's probably made hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in ad revenue from the very system. You're trying to say it doesn't work, and you're using that as justification that everyone should run ad blockers so that no one on YouTube can make any money? Am I hearing this right? Like, again, please feel free to correct me if I somehow misheard all of this. But is this not explicitly what he's trying to say in this video? That adblock is justifiable because Google's ad system doesn't work. If you ask me, based on the example he provided, it's working just as intended, because if I'm an advertiser trying to reach impressions on YouTube, why would I advertise on your 20-second cat video? It's like I want to reach through the screen and grab him by the shirt collar and say, hey genius, you ever notice how TikTok, a platform with more users than any other, can't get their creators ad revenue? You ever wonder why that may be the case? Maybe it's because online advertisers at this point have figured out that advertisements on short videos, 60-second or less videos, are ineffective, and that it's a waste of money, and that the return on investment is not worth the cost. You ever maybe consider that as a reason why your 20-second no-effort video of your cat didn't earn that much revenue? Did you ever think that over all this time, they might have finally figured out what videos to put their ads on to actually fulfill their intended purpose? Because it's not 1-minute long TikToks or YouTube Shorts, because despite driving in massive amounts of traffic, have been incapable of attracting advertisers. Man, if all these videos with millions and millions of views can't get advertisers, what makes you think that your 20-second, zero-effort video CCTV footage of your cat can? I swear, I respect him. I respect him and what he has to say, but this video, it's like, why? Why did he post this video? What makes you possibly think that advertisers will want to touch your video with a 10-foot pole? It's like, man, for someone who's been around making content on this website for so long, how could you possibly be this ignorant about the realities of where your money actually comes from? The money goes where the advertisers want it to go, plain and simple. It's always been like that. And yes, YouTube has had some rocky periods with the adpocalypse and advertiser boycotts and the demonetization system being broken for years. All of that are completely valid criticisms of YouTube's administration. But to sit there and bitch and complain that your 20-second cat video is somehow not making enough revenue for you and that people should use adblock because of it, I'm sorry, dude, but that's not grounds for complaint. That's just sour grapes. That's just throwing a temper tantrum over being butthurt. And that to me is pretty much all this video comes off as. Just a massive butthurt guy. Like, don't try to tell me that this video is trying to help out the YouTube community because you care so much. How nice of you, by the way, to put in the video that, oh, YouTube is not even my primary source of income anyway. Oh great, so I guess it can just go to hell.
YouTube money for me is not the way that I pay my rent, mortgage, food, etc. I don't care if YouTube pays me or not.
And anyone who actually does depend on YouTube for income can just suffer the consequences. Like, what a stupidly arrogant thing to say. Oh, I don't even do YouTube full time. I could just go back to my computer repair job. But you should use AdBlock anyway and take revenue away from anyone who actually does use YouTube. How nice of you to have that circumstantial benefit that most others don't. Way to stick up for the little guy. Of course, the only people you're actually sticking up for is AdBlock users.
I genuinely want you to feel as guilt-free as humanly possible for turning ads off.
And look, I'm not going to demonize you for using AdBlock. I've used it before. I know plenty of people who use it. I don't think you're literally satanic for using it. If you want to use AdBlock, by all means. I can't stop you. But don't try to sit there and act like it's somehow this virtuous, morally right thing to do. Because it's not. And I don't care how evil you think the nature of advertising is. Using AdBlock is, and always has been, a hedonistic, self-serving vice. Morally speaking, I don't consider it that far off from watching porn, smoking cigarettes, or drinking yourself half to death at night. It is a self-serving action that benefits you and you alone. You can try to cope and make it seem that it's part of some grander vision of a libertarian utopia of the internet or whatever, where everyone donates to everyone else and no ads are necessary. Like I said earlier, if you believe that, you're in fantasy land. Your headspace is not on this actual planet where actual rules and economic realities apply. I'm not going to try to sit here and put a gun to your head for using AdBlock. Just like how I don't care if you jerk off to furry porn 7 times a day or whatever. But don't try to call it this virtuous thing, because it's not. And I can sense that some of you sitting there listening to this might be a bit offended right now, because I'm fairly confident that my audience, much like Lewis's audience, is probably pretty pro AdBlock, and probably see no problem with advocating for others to use AdBlock. And I'm sure that many of you out there are probably thinking of plenty of examples right now of me being a hypocrite, where you're probably thinking like, Emp, haven't you been okay with piracy? Haven't you been okay with not paying musicians licensing fees to use their content in your videos? And while a lot of these things fall in the same philosophical vein as using adblock, there comes a point where the effort required to watch the content is so minimal that why are you even trying to circumvent it? Like, I don't know, maybe it is a bit hypocritical for me to say this, but is it that hard to sit through a 15-second ad? Is it that hard to sit through 5 seconds of an ad and then press skip? Like, honestly, is it? I understand that in our 21st century wage world economy, time is money and you gotta be constantly productive with your time at all times, or else you're literally burning through your net worth or something. But like, dude, go get a drink of water. Go take a piss while the pre-roll ad is playing. This is the small price to pay for free content. Free. You don't have to pay anything. You just plop it on your computer, watch it, and your bank account stays at the same value. What a revolutionary idea. All little Joey YouTuber asks is that you sit through the 15 seconds of ads at the beginning and maybe a few other ads mixed in throughout. And even for the types of creators who are just maxing out the number of ads on the video, they're just jamming as many ad breaks in there as they can, you're still winding up with less total ad time than cable TV. You're still ending up with less ads than the discount version of Hulu. And last time I checked, you gotta pay for cable and you gotta pay for Hulu. And the ads on those platforms are still more than on YouTube that you can watch for free. So let me reiterate once again, is that 15-second ad break really so arduous for you that you have to use adblock? That you would place blocking ads in the same vein as not paying $12 for a movie ticket by pirating a movie, or not having to go through thousands of dollars of licensing fees and legal paperwork to license a song in a YouTube video? Is that really in the same category here? Or are we really trying to argue that you're saving on the same expenditure of effort versus sitting through a 15-second ad for a free video? Like, do you seriously consider that in the same ballpark of effort? I guess some people do, and that's why they use adblock. And it's somewhat hilarious to me, the situation. Okay, I see how this is gonna go. Dropping a few too many truth bombs about old Lewis, so he decides to sick his private police force that he keeps on his $1 million ad revenue payroll. But fortunately, for you folks at home, I will not be silenced. Sure, they may have suspended my license and impounded my vehicle, but they haven't taken away my spirit. And look around, folks. This is the future that Louis Rossmann wants for all you content creators sitting at home. They want you to be homeless at the beach after encouraging his entire audience to take away your ad revenue by putting on ad block and not having the patience to sit through a 15-second ad. But fear not, my friends, because you don't have to become homeless. As I was explaining earlier before I was so rudely interrupted, Louis Rossmann has an ingenious solution that will render all ad revenue-based systems completely obsolete.
Can you just imagine if instead of ads that you deposited like $10 into an account, and each time you viewed a video, 1/1000th of a cent was deducted. Every time you viewed an article, 1/1000th of a penny was deducted, or something like that, instead of having to deal with ads.
You see, it's so simple, ladies and gentlemen. I don't understand why Google and all their think tank engineers haven't thought of this yet. You see, what if instead of having to wait 15 seconds to watch an ad, you could just deposit $10 into your YouTube account, and that money would be distributed proportionally to the number of creators you watch? Yeah, I better call up Google right now and tell them to implement this completely genius revenue model, which definitely doesn't exist already. Oh wait, it does? It's called YouTube Premium, and it's been on the platform for at least 4 years now? And Louis is acting like this is some new thing that he just invented in his head? That's right, everyone. Louis's grand alternative to the ad revenue model is YouTube Premium, which already exists. But that doesn't stop him from describing it like it's somehow this new, innovative, groundbreaking thing. Yes, everyone, if you don't want to watch ads on YouTube, you have the option to pay 10, 12, 13, whatever the inflation raised the price to. You have the option on YouTube to pay a monthly premium that gets rid of ads and still compensates the creators you watch. Stop the presses, everyone. We've just come up with the most revolutionary idea in history. Yeah, so imagine that. Google's team of hundreds of engineers and marketing strategists were a little bit ahead of Lewis on this one. One of the most successful companies on planet Earth actually thought a little bit ahead on that one. So for Lewis and all these pro adblock people out there, your magic eraser solution actually exists already. How about using it? How about paying X amount of dollars a month to compensate creators while also not seeing ads? Except you probably don't want to pay a monthly premium for YouTube videos. Most people do not. Most people prefer to just watch ads. Imagine that. In most cases, people are willing to shill out the $10 for a movie ticket, or for a music streaming service with pretty much every available song known to man, or for a high quality television and film streaming service where they basically have an unlimited amount of content to watch. The business problem of whether to use an ad revenue based model or to charge an upfront fee has been hashed out and pretty much solved for the past 100 years. These debates were being had 100 years ago at the advent of radio, when radio was a brand new invention and people started tuning in and became the first mass media consumers. There were debates, business-wise, over whether to use an ad revenue-based system or have the consumer pay an upfront fee to access the content. And overwhelmingly, they found that the vast majority of consumers preferred to just sit through ads and not have to pay to use the content. And this basic consumer preference, where they would rather sit through ads rather than pay an upfront fee, has persisted to today. If you look at the App Store, all the most downloaded apps are free-to-play models with advertisements in them. And even though most phone games and apps offer the option to pay a one-time fee to remove all the ads, I guarantee you, the vast majority of consumers just prefer to leave the ads on and not pay anything. You know, they say the best things in life are free, and it turns out that people will tolerate quite a bit just to have access to something for free. It's that way now. It was that way 100 years ago. Nothing has changed about this hard economic reality that advertisement-based models for media simply work. I mean, hell, have you ever read through an old magazine, Life magazine, back in the 60s and 70s? That was something that people actually had to pay a subscription fee for, and there were still ads in pretty much 35 to 40% of the content provided. Like old magazines, newspapers, online articles today, they all rely on an ad model. And yes, advertisements suck. No one wants to look at them. They're intrusive. They're obnoxious. Find me a better way, okay? And better options exist. People don't use them in mass. People don't want to donate. 99% of the creators won't donate to Patreon. They won't buy merchandise. They won't pay to become a channel member. They won't pay for YouTube Premium. These are simply not financially relevant impressions that you're going to be getting from the vast majority of the audience. But hey, do you know what the vast majority of the audience is willing to do? Watch an ad. Imagine that. Look, I'm not going to sit here and call you a scumbag for using AdBlock. That's your personal choice to slightly improve your own individual experience at the marginal expense of many other people. But don't try to sit there and claim that it's part of this morally justifiable crusade, because at the end of the day, it just comes off as empty excuses. You want the ad-free experience, YouTube Premium is there, but if you're not willing to spare the expense, then there's not much room left for you to complain that you're doing anything else than a hedonistic decision that benefits you and you alone. And despite how harsh I might have come off in this video, I have no ill will against Lewis. I'm not trying to start drama. I'm probably still gonna watch his videos after this, but man, it's just another one of these examples where you kind of wish this guy had never posted this at all. I didn't exactly see it as a malicious video that's actively trying to harm the YouTube ecosystem, but rhetoric like this ends up doing that by creating these false impressions on people that AdBlock is somehow a justifiable way to improve the way business is conducted on YouTube, when it's not. It's just selfish, plain and simple, and you're not a hero for doing it. I give Lewis the benefit of the doubt in this situation because it seems like in this specific area of expertise, he was just clueless. And he probably shouldn't have made this video about something that he clearly didn't do enough research about. It seemed to me that he had just as much of a right of making this video as I do in giving advice on how to repair MacBooks. So maybe in the future, let's just stay in our... Jesus Christ. Alright, the Louis Rossmann fan club support group Helicopter Force is coming after me for saying all this, so I gotta wrap this up and get out of here. But basically, this video was a rare miss out of someone who generally makes pretty good points about most stuff he talks about. But in this specific situation, he was clearly out of his depth, and I think that's a problem when you have an audience that can pantomime these opinions that are basically just completely nonsensical and offer no solutions to actual YouTubers. So I guess with all that being said, it's probably best for all of us to just stay in our own lane and maybe only give such opinionated advice on stuff that we're actually knowledgeable about.